Rein is one of the worst tanks in Overwatch right now. The last time we properly saw play from him was by a single team last year and by LH Cloudy's team. In fact, Rein is so bad that the one time he did get play on Oasis, he got manhandled just like me on Grinder. Huh? Well, I reached out to Glacier, the rank 1 Reinhardt in the West, who I'm sure many of you already know from past videos. Let's get into it. As always, it's important to look back when Rein was his strongest, and I actually want to go all the way back to Overwatch 1 GOATs. This might not seem relevant now, but the 6v6 format really covered Rein's weaknesses, at least in high level play. D.Va Lucio were essentially a mini dive crew that could control spaces that a Reinhardt couldn't. And even when 6v6 role queue got added, the strongest variation of the Rein comp was with D.Va and not Zarya. Keep this stuff in mind for later. Now, when we entered the 5v5 era of Overwatch 2, the Overwatch League was still around. And of course, there was one team that pulled the Rein off better than anybody else, the London Spitfire. As much shit as I give Christopher for the AI memes on Twitter, there's no denying that he popularized a very objective focused outlook on the game, something that no other hero but Reinhardt excelled at. Rein could essentially hold down the points, stall by shielding, brawl anyone that came towards him, and allowed his Bapcast to do the majority of the carrying. Now, one of Rein's biggest competitors, Ramattra, got his big release in December of 2022, something we'll definitely talk about later. But for the time being, there still wasn't a tank that could stall, zone and brawl as well as Rein. He did also get some buffs in 2023 too. In February, his pin and his fire strike got buffed at the cost of his shatter. His armor did get nerfed 2 months afterwards though, but to compensate, his shield got buffed in July of 2023. Keep in mind though, we're only getting started. Now onto the dreaded Season 9 patch in 2024, where Rein got a notable hammer and pin damage increase. He got yet another buff the month after, with his fire strike damage being increased to 120 and his armor getting increased too. This did help Rein get some play, as we saw SSG, who were mainly the London Spitfire core, play Reinhardt every now and then. Of course, most teams still prioritized Orisa and Ramattra at the time, but Rein was actually viable for a short period of time. As part of the massive tank buffs in July, he did get a decent increase to his shield HP alongside his pin impact damage. But because of Juno's release, alongside a bug that made D.Va fly faster, we entered a brief Juno D.Va meta. Teams could basically fly past not just your shield, but your entire character and blow someone up. Something that ground tanks like Rein couldn't do much about. Orisa then got micro buffed back into dominance, followed by a week-long Mauga meta in Stockholm, again enabled by how powerful Juno was. For some reason, Rein got a shield nerf in the middle of all of this, who knows why. As of this year, the last change Rein got was to his perks, which when we compare them to his competition, aren't very good. This now leads me onto talking about his angle control, or lack thereof. I'll use a very crude example to help illustrate this. Say there's someone on high ground. If I'm Sigma, my character is built for marking off these angles, so I've got no trouble. If I'm Orisa, I can poke them out because I've got no fall off. If I'm Mauga, I can do a fairly similar thing. If I'm Queen, it's a bit harder, but I can still threaten with my knife at the very least. Now, on Ramattra, sure, you can shield them off, but it doesn't really scare or threaten the targets. And, before the perks, all you could do is shoot, which is inconsistent against moving targets. But, because of that major perk that allows you to detonate your vortex, this entirely changes. If you watched my #1 Ramattra video covering Infected, you would have seen multiple cases where Infected used the perk not just to deny an angle, but kill someone on that angle too. And it wasn't just on immobile characters like Cass or Juno, he would also deny Sombra or D.Va too. Now, if Infected wasn't Rein, how on earth is he killing the Cassidy here? He can't just magically fly up with his pin. And this Juno kill, good luck chasing her after your pin. So we go back to that Hollywood example, and all you can do is shield or toss a fire strike. Before I continue, check out my Spallo approved coaching down below if you want to climb. Now, as we kinda saw, Ram has received a lot of power creep. All of Ram's perks are better than Ryan's, barring the bash, and he's also kinda invincible. I already talked about how insane his damage mitigation is in my last video, but this time I actually want to show you. You see, Rein was played on a single round of Oasis at the pro level, purely because Ramattra was banned. And I think the first fight immediately shows you the problem with not just Rein, but Ramattra too. Here Kajor on the Rein gets walled, and in just a matter of seconds, his shield gets melted, he gets melted, and Lamp gets forced out. If Ramattra was in that situation, I can basically guarantee you that he's not even dropping below half HP. Firstly, his damage mitigation with armor is insane, especially into pellets or beams. Secondly, Baptiste can't heal Rein's shield, but he can heal a Ramattra blocking. And just for the cherry on top, Ram can interweave punches while blocking, whereas Rein can't really drop his shield. Going back to the game, Kajor is soon forced to go for a risky pin and dies during it. In another fight, against Blizzard, Kajor tries to pin out of it, but gets blocked off by Checkmate's wall, eventually dying. Honestly, he was gonna die here even if he was Ramattra, but still kinda sad to watch. Now, believe it or not, but there were actually some close fights. Essentially, when Twisted Minds are able to leverage the range of the cast BAP to support the Rein, they didn't get rolled. Here, Simple pops the window on points, which allows Kajor to walk forwards. And even though Landon pops the Kitsune in response, Quartz hits a nice dink, popping High Noon soon after, which helps clean up the fight. Now, that was the only fight the Rein comp won, but they were also very close to winning another fight too. In this example, Twisted Minds are very close to Window and High Noon, which can win them a fight just like we saw. Unfortunately, UB strays onto the point, getting first picked, throwing that fight away. And sadly, Kajor jump shattered, finding nothing. But I hope this shows that Rein isn't actually that far behind Ramattra. Let me remind you that on the right map, Rein can zone off an entire backline for basically an eternity. In an era where honor nades can guarantee hits onto tanks like Queen and even Mauga, Rein is one of the few heroes who's got adequate counterplay to that. But speaking of Mauga and also Orisa, we need to talk about them too. Glacier told me that these three tanks were Rein's biggest competition in that they can just do what he does but better. Orisa's Javelin in particular is her unique selling points. We've already seen how it can blow up Rein's biggest competition, Ramattra, in past games before. Couple that with her Fortifying Sustain and CC immunity, she can bulldoze past your shield into your backline without much concern. Mauga, on the other hand, fits in a similar lane. I've used this clip by Hardy many times to show how you can beat Mauga as Rein by keeping distance and blocking his cardiac overdrive. But the second Mauga stops matching you and starts running on your backline or taking duels around your shield, he becomes a lot harder to deal with. Especially in ranked, I basically abuse the ban system to get rid of Ana so I can 3-stack Mauga Juno Brig. It's kinda disgusting, so if you wanna see a dedicated video to that, let me know. So what are the fixes to Rein? Well, I don't think it needs to be anything drastic. Now, I'm not Marbler or Popcorp, so the fixes I have aren't gonna involve some fancy UI creations. But I did initially think of a Brute Force perk where you can transfer some of your shield HP to temporary overhealth. The idea being that it would allow Rein to more easily transition from shielding to brawling, but I don't even think that's fully necessary. Glacier told me that all Rein needs is 125 damage fire strikes, so he can 2-shot, as well as fire damage of the fire strike as a perk. The devs already gave Rein a 2-shot fire strike in early 2023. Plus, I don't think some kind of Mauga burn after you fire strike a target would be busted. Also, I would definitely nerf Ram's block, at least to make sure that armor doesn't stack on top of block mitigation. Even though it doesn't sound like much, when you look at the difference in effective HPs, a small increase in mitigation makes a big difference. If you guys have any other ideas, let me know down below. But that's gonna be it for the video. If you enjoyed, click this video on screen, and until next time.